The disengagement divide. Here's my theory. Disengagement is the issue underlying the majority of problems I see in families, schools, communities, and organizations. And it takes many forms, including the ones we discussed in the Armory chapter. We disengage to protect ourselves from vulnerability, shame, and feeling lost and without purpose. We also disengage when we feel like the people who are leading us, our boss, our teachers, our principal, our clergy, our parents, our politicians, aren't living up to their end of the social contract. Politics is a great, albeit painful, example of social contract disengagement. Politicians on both sides of the aisle are making laws that they're not required to follow or that don't affect them. They're engaging in behaviors that would result in most of us getting fired, divorced, or arrested. They're espousing values that are rarely displayed in their behavior. And just watching them shame and blame each other is degrading for us. They're not living up to their side of the social contract, and voter turnout statistics show that we're disengaging. Religion is another example of social contract disengagement. First, disengagement is often the result of leaders not living by the same values they're preaching. Second, in an uncertain world, we often feel desperate for absolutes. It's the human response to fear. When religious leaders leverage our fear and need for more certainty by extracting vulnerability from spirituality and turning faith into compliance and consequences, rather than teaching and modeling how to wrestle with the unknown and how to embrace mystery, the entire concept of faith is bankrupt on its own terms. Faith minus vulnerability equals politics, or worse, extremism. Spiritual connection and engagement is not built on compliance. It's the product of love, belonging, and vulnerability. So here's the question. We don't intentionally create cultures in our families, schools, communities, and organizations that fuel disengagement and disconnection. So how does it happen? Where's the gap? The gap starts here. We can't give people what we don't have. Who we are matters immeasurably more than what we know or who we want to be. The space between our practice values, what we're actually doing, thinking, and feeling, and our aspirational values, what we want to do, think, and feel, is the value gap, or what I call the disengagement divide. It's where we lose our employees, our clients, and our students, our teachers, our congregations, even our own children. We can take big steps. We can even make a running jump to cross the widening value fissures that we face at home, work, and school. But at some point, when that divide broadens to a certain critical degree, we're goners. That's why dehumanizing culture fosters the highest levels of disengagement. They create value gaps that actual humans can't hope to successfully navigate. Let's take a look at some common issues that arise in the context of families. I'm using family examples because we're all part of families. Even if we don't have children, we were raised by adults. In each case, a significant gap has grown between the practiced values and the aspirational values, creating that dangerous disengagement divide. In this first example, the family's aspirational values are honesty and integrity. But the practice values are rationalizing and letting things slide. Mom is always telling her kids that honesty and integrity are important, and that stealing and cheating in school won't be tolerated. As they pile into the car after a long grocery shop, Mom realizes that the cashier didn't charge her for the sodas in the bottom of the cart. Rather than going back into the store, she shrugs and says, "Well, wasn't my fault. They're making a mint anyway." The second example, the aspirational values are respect and accountability. but what's being practiced is fast and easy as more important. Dad is always driving home the importance of respect and accountability. But when Bobby intentionally breaks Sammy's new transformer, Dad is too busy on his BlackBerry to sit down with the brothers and talk about how they should treat each other's toys. Instead of insisting that Bobby needs to apologize and make amends, he shrugs his shoulders thinking, boys will be boys, and tells them both to go to their rooms. In this third example, the aspirational values are gratitude and respect. But what's being practiced is teasing, taking for granted, and disrespect. Mom and Dad constantly feel underappreciated, and they're tired of their children's disrespectful attitudes. But Mom and Dad themselves yell at each other and call each other names. No one in the house says please or thank you, including the parents. Moreover, Mom and Dad use put-downs with their children and with each other, and everyone routinely teases family members to the point of tears. The problem is that the parents are looking for behaviors, emotions, and thinking patterns that their children have never seen modeled. In this last scenario, the aspirational values are setting limits. But the practice values are that rebellion and cool are portrayed as important in this family. Julie is 17 and her younger brother Austin is 14.